Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all for finding time and visiting today's webinar. So, myself, Vandana, I would love to extend my warm welcome to all present here for this webinar entitled Challenges of Online Education from an Educator's Perspective, organized by DZ Saksham. So, DZ Saksham is initiative of SEMS Welfare Foundation and has developed content for over 300 courses in multiple languages, which range from 4 hours to 6 months for all age groups from school children, youth, professional to senior citizen with over 6,000 trainings till date in various sectors like technology, science, IT, healthcare and finance. So now let's talk about today's event. Parents are a child's first teachers who gave them life lessons, and after them comes the guru or teacher who leads the child ahead in life. In our younger and impressionable years, our teachers played a very important role. They have been our role model, our inspirations, and parents figure outside of our home who taught us many lessons about life. At times, they might be tough on us, but inside, it was only to mold and shape our talent to make us fight our fears and to work on our weaknesses. In fact, a good teacher not only imparts knowledge to their students, but they inspire courage and instill curiosity to find solution to problems. Today, to honor these remarkable people in our life, we celebrate Teachers' Day. Through this webinar, we will celebrate Teachers' Day. So here, I would like to extend my warm welcome to our honorable speaker, Dr. Bhavleen Rekhi. She is an expert in the field of digital marketing since 20 years. She is a corporate trainer, consultant, and MD professor in the areas of digital marketing and holds a PhD in the same. She trains various renowned brands on advanced digital marketing courses and mentors startup under the consultancy #digital. She is an MBA professor in more than 6 MB Institute in Delhi NCR. She has trained more than 100 brands, SMEs, startups, few latest one being Honda, CII, UN, WFP, etc. She has some valuable national, international publications, has an experience of teaching some Harvard modules like career tricks. She has also been invited by online news channels to enlighten people about this field. She is associated with Google, FICCI, and Tata Institute of Social Science in training brands.
Thank you, Vandana, for the introduction. So, welcome all of you. And it is very heartening to see, a lot of people here from different locations because I just got a message that I'm from Philippines and all. So, welcome all of you. And, we celebrate today as Teachers' Day in India. And this day has a big relevance to all of us out here. And there is a very famous proverb, which I think is a Japanese proverb, according to which they say that, if you spend one day with a great teacher, it is actually better than spending 1,000 days of a diligent study. And I honestly believe in this, that teachers do play a very, very important role uh, in our lives to shape our careers and also to shape our personal life. So on account of Teachers Day, today we have this webinar, which is going to talk about the online challenges, which are faced from an educator's perspective. Now, why this is very important to discuss from an educator's perspective is why, because everywhere, that you see everywhere, news channels and, online portals and LinkedIn and Facebook, everywhere you find articles and news, which talk about, how this online education is very challenging for the students. But I have really not come across anybody talking about how this, online education is equally challenging for the teachers as well. So, since today is Teachers Day, so we thought that, we should probably take this as an opportunity to talk about how this is equally difficult and challenging, for the teachers. So, I'm hoping that everybody present here is comfortable in English. I mean, because we'll be having this webinar in English. So, everybody speaks English here, right? Yeah. So, okay, great. So, while I'll be concentrating mostly on the challenges, that we face here in India, But it will be really lovely to hear from all of you at the end of the talk that, what are the challenges you face in your respective locations as educators. To start off with, I would say that, there was a very recent survey which was done by India Today Group, which is a very big news portal in this country. And according to that survey, when teachers were interviewed, so it was realized that 84% of teachers mentioned that yes, we have a lot of problems in conducting online classes. And these problems we will be discussing in detail today. And not just these problems, I mean, 2 out of 5 teachers said that they do not have the necessary devices also to conduct online classes. So it is a huge challenge, particularly in developing countries like India. Like 84% of the teachers say that there is no internet connectivity and there is a huge signal problem, etc. So in our 2 states, that is Uttar Pradesh and Chhattisgarh, which are like huge states here in India, as big as 80% teachers said that we lack the necessary devices and we lack the necessary internet connection to be able to conduct online classes. So this is actually very very I would say a grim situation for a country with a huge population. So if I were to ask you teachers, just raise your hands and tell me that when you started taking online classes, were you given a proper orientation and a training to be able to do so? I mean, how many of you would say that yes, we got proper training, that this is how online classes have to be conducted, etc. So anybody can raise the hand and tell me if you were given proper trainings. Okay, so yeah, okay, that's really nice. I have one hand, but okay, so if I were to share you the situation here in India, it is like only 20% of teachers said that proper orientation and training has been given to us to be able to conduct online classes. And in a state like Bihar, it's less than 5% teachers. So that means teachers are on their own. So they have learned on their own with limited resources, with limited Wi-Fi connections, etc. And things have been, I would say, pretty challenging for teachers having to conduct all of a sudden online classes. And other thing that they say is, online classes need to have a certain etiquette. you know so a lot of teachers also spoke about how not just the students but also the teachers as well as the parents, they lack these etiquettes, which have to be there in online classes as against traditional education. So how many of you believe that your students or the parents, because they're taking the classes from home, so parents are already a kitty to it. So how many of you feel that your students have the necessary etiquettes which is required to be able to properly conduct an online class? Can you raise your hands and tell? Okay. So, yeah. So here we had these complaints that, I mean, the online etiquette, which the students have to learn is not there. Now, if I were to ask you people that what is the most popular portal that, you people take to conduct online classes, majority of them say Zoom, Zoom or Google Meet, and some also say Microsoft Teams, etc. So have you also, faced security issues? Because here, we have really faced a lot of security issues, be it related to Zoom or be it related to Google Classroom, etc. So security issues is another problem which is being faced by teachers here, about which they talk very often. And secondly is, when we take classes in a traditional environment, so what happens is that It is all right to have a batch of 60 students, 70 students, in fact 80 students also. In fact, I teach digital marketing, which is a very technical paper, but still my class size is always more than 60 students. It's sometimes 80 also, 120 also, etc. But the problem here is that in online education, when we are actually devising the class size, we have never looked into the logistics of what is the maximum number of students that can be effectively taught, in an online education. So if an online offline class has about 80 students, is it all right to have the same class for online education as well, or should we lower the number of classes? Should they be divided into 4 classes of 20 each? Can, in a small screen of a laptop or a computer, you can manage 80 students just the way you can do in a training hall? So these are certain things, which as educators, are always left behind, and because of which the challenges are always increasing for us. So basically, having gone through all these surveys of teachers, which was conducted by the India Today group, and also having spoken to a lot of teachers myself, because I again belong to the field of academic teaching and corporate trainings. So I have basically divided the major problems into 11 categories, which I'm going to briefly talk to you guys about, and then probably you guys can give your opinions, or if you have questions, I'll be very happy to handle those. So the first problem, the first problem area that which teachers have been very candid in talking to me is passive students. That means we always know that all the students are not equally participative in a class environment. Some are very participative, and some are just very lethargic, and some are shy, some are reserved, etc. So we put those students in the category which is known as passive students. Why? Because they are not very actively involved. So the in online education, what we have observed is that the number of passive students, okay, Varun has a question. Varun, I'll be taking your question at the end. Okay, so I'm just going to finish this in 15 minutes, and then I'm going to take up your question. Okay, Varun. So, passive students, the proportion of passive students in online education has drastically increased. So this is one big challenge, that if initially 20% of the class used to be passive, now at least 60% of the class is passive, and that's because of online education. Now, this is a very big concern. The second category of problems that teachers face is instructional strategy. Now, for example, I teach modules of digital marketing and analytics. Now, they are very technical topics. So for such technical topics, it's not that online education is the answer to everything. It's really not, because there are certain modules, which can be taught very easily, in online education, but there are certain modules for which you require a physical training room. And but the way this pandemic came, and started putting pressures on us, and schools had to be closed down for around, in India they have been closed for 18 months. So every module is being taught through online education, so their sensitivity in instructional strategy is lacking, that every module is actually not meant to be taught online, number one. And number two, online education cannot do equal amount as justice to all these kind of modules. Then, you know, third area of problem which the teachers actually spoke about was student to student collaboration. Now we do understand that the maximum, or the maximum fun and maximum learning happens when it's not just a teacher to student collaboration, but a student to student collaboration also. So online education, from an educator's perspective, I say, has really made the student to student collaboration so grim that hardly any learning is happening. Fourth area of problem is adaptability. We require a very agile environment for our students to keep on hopping between online, offline, and a hybrid mode. But not every student which is present out there has that level of agility, has that level of adaptability. Neither as schools or as an educator we have been able to do sufficient amount of work to be able to bring that adaptability in them. Now, the fifth area of problem is time management. Now, this is not just a challenge for the students, but I believe this is a bigger challenge for the teachers. So, for example, for my subjects, in a physical environment, a class comprises of 90 minutes. So, in 90 minutes, whatever case studies I have to do, or whatever topic I have to teach, or whatever doubts and all I have to clear, they all have been designed according to a pedagogy of 90 minutes. But in online education, because taking certain things into account, which is like the strain on the eyes and the mental stress and the wi-fi connectivity and the duration of the zoom sessions, etc., I mean, so many factors put together, so those 90 minutes have actually been compressed into 60 minutes. Now, for a teacher, it's not just compressing the time, it is changing the entire pedagogy, because a topic which you used to teach in 90 minutes, either you have to break it down into two different classes, or you have to compress it to 60 minutes. Either ways, it is a complete change of pedagogy, which is actually very, very difficult. So time management has been a great issue for, the educators here. Sixth area is distraction. We know that there are certain distractions which are there in the physical environment also, but definitely because the students are taking these classes from their homes, so the level of distraction in online education is much higher. And also, not only is the level of distraction higher, the capability of an educator to be able to address or handle that distraction is much lower in online education. And then, the seventh area of problem is that, see, we human beings, we are born and trained in a certain way. So the children up till now, I don't know about future generations, they are so tech savvy that maybe they will be very quick in adapting themselves to online education. But talking of the present generation, they have an inbuilt ability to grasp things quicker in a traditional environment, classroom, than in an online environment. And now they are adapting themselves to hybrid models. So there are certain inherent learning capabilities which we have, and to expect that in just 2 months these things will change, is it's really not gonna happen. So next is communication skills. So this is the eighth area. Now, what I mean by communication skills, so for example, when in a physical environment, you examine or you judge or you assess a student on presentation skills. So it is not actually, I would rather say that it is not that you are just judging the presentation, or you are just judging the content of the presentation. There's a lot more than you are judging, which comprises of the communication skills, which comprises of the body language, the sitting posture, the dress, the professional dressing, and there are so many things involved. Whereas, in online education, even when a student is presenting, he's just presenting from a particular chair, and you can only see the presentation on his screen. So, the communication skills, the body language, there is nothing beyond the content which is there on the presentation that you can assess. So if you cannot even assess that, how would you give that feedback to the student, that what was right in your body language and what was wrong in your body language, So that is where the communication skills are really lacking. And this is a very big concern for most of the educators, that they have brought it up. Now, assessment. We all are, giving assignments to our students, and we all are assessing our students. But as an educator, if I ask you, are you 100% satisfied with the kind of assessments that you are giving to the students in an online mode? Are they 100% authentic? No. For covering up the syllabus, for meeting our KRAs, all of us are doing it. But if conscientiously we analyze, are these assessments as pious as they are in a physical environment? So this is the question. Okay. Now, assessments, and then comes feedback. How do you give a detailed feedback in an online environment? Now, I do understand that, yes, there are parent teacher meetings which are happening, and everything is happening. I mean, there's nothing which is stopped. But is the efficacy involved in the same? Is the same? Is the parent teacher meeting, for example, when you give the feedback of a child to a parent, who is sitting just next to you in a face to face interaction, is it the same which happens in an online environment? It's not the same, and that personal touch, which a lot of schools, they proclaim themselves to be community schools, etc. So the personal touch is nowhere there. Okay. And the last area, and which is a very very important area, which talks about the problems which the educators face, is learning management systems. So because of security reasons, or because of cost factors, or because of the amount of wi-fi a particular system will use, etc., I have seen schools, colleges, and institutes, they are hopping from one learning system to another. So, for example, if I take our example, we started on Google Classroom. Then we realized it's certain shortcomings, and it takes too much of Wi-Fi, etc. And there are certain features which are totally missing. So we shifted to Manage Back by Microsoft. Then we realized that most of the parents were not even able to adjust to Manage Back because it's a very complex system as compared to Google Classroom. Then we shifted back to Google Classroom. Then, for some security reasons, now for the fourth time in 18 months, we are trying to give contract to another application, So, by the time the parents, teachers, and the children, they get used to a particular kind of a learning management system, we change the system for whatever reason. It could be a security reason, it could be a cost reason, it could be the adaptability reason. The reasons can be many, but we keep on hopping from one system to another, so that's the reason, the educators find it very very challenging. However, it is very sad to note that always everybody's just talking about the challenges the students face and the parents face, but there's not much voice around what are the kind of challenges that educators face. So we thought that on the occasion of Teachers Day, it's very very important to talk about those issues which really bother the educators. Now I only had to say this much. Now I would love to hear from all of you that what are the kind of challenges you face, and also do you agree about the challenges that we have discussed right now? Okay, I have a question. That's Varun. Being a student, how to face and overcome the fear of failures. I have just cleared my master's, and I realized that even though I was educated, I was fearful that even fearful of failures, or whether I'll be ready for the roles and responsibilities. For example, I wondered what impact I would bring to the society, fear of finding things I didn't know before, and finding I am not market ready, and many more. Please guide on the same. Varun, where are you? Can I see you on the screen, please? Yes, Varun, I can
Hi,
see you
ma'am.
now. Hi. So, which part of the world are you from, Varun? Where are you right now?
India, NCR, recently completed
NCR,
my
okay.
master's in technology,
Okay. What exactly in technology, Varun?
nanotechnology, ma'am.
Okay, nanotechnology. Wow, that's a
Yeah,
great.
it's a hardcore science subject.
Yeah, I'm a hardcore science professor of chemistry before digital marketing, so I do understand nanotechnology to an extent. But my question to you is, Varun, from where did you do this nanotechnology course?
It was from Amity University. I
Amity.
scored
Okay.
really well, I guess. But
Mm-hmm.
the thing is, I was working on what should I say, R&D work more, and now I realize that there was a huge gap between R&D and the world of industries. And now
Okay.
I want to bridge that gap. And now I am scared to know how much I didn't even think existed.
Yes. Oh my God, Varun, you are, I mean, I'm very happy to know this question from you. Is why? Because this gap that you are addressing about is a real gap. And it is not a gap only in the field of nanotechnology, it is a gap which exists in every field. When my digital marketing students also pass out, they realize that what has been taught in the institute and what the corporate expects are two different universe, and this gap is actually very wide, particularly in technical courses. So in course like nanotechnology, I'm very sure this gap is very wide. Now, coming to this question, of failures, let me tell you one thing. A person who is always conscious of failure will overcome them one day. But here you are not at fault, is because it's not what I am saying, but experts, doctors, everybody all over the world, backed by certain scientific study, they have always said this pandemic has put more fears into our mind than a normal person at this age and stage of life would probably have had. Varun, are you able to understand what I am saying? Is because of this pandemic, because there are a lot of jobs which have been lost. There are no new jobs as such which are coming up. Okay. Lot of sectors have closed down, and even if they have not really closed down, at least they have shrunken in size. Now, because they have shrunken in size, the opportunities in them have declined. So, this fear, number one, could be a natural fear, but the magnitude of the fear is definitely higher because of the pandemic, the related lockdowns, and the related sectoral disasters which have happened, because of which people are not investing into certain sciences. For example, if I talk about nanotechnology, the entire expenditure of the healthcare sector today is diverted towards vaccination drive, which is also, I would say, at the moment, a bigger need for our country, right? So that is the reason, the gap is very wide. But hang on in there, as the things start to streamline, this gap would shrink. And when this gap would shrink, your fears would normally and naturally shrink. So just hang on in there. It is a matter of time. But at the same time, when I say hang on in there, I do not mean that start relaxing. No, upgrade yourselves in terms of skills. And even for nanotechnology, I know there are lots and lots of courses which are free online, or which are very very economical. At the same time, there are a lot of research papers around nanotechnology which are extremely free of cost, and they are circulating on Google everywhere. So, the best way to overcome your fear is to make your skills so strong that you are so confident that next time an interview happens, there is nobody who can reject me because my skill is so strong. And the best way to, enhance your skill is reading, doing courses, and not just relaxing. So keep on working on yourself, number one. Number two, things will start falling in place today or tomorrow, and this fear will go, and you will start with a great career. Also, one more thing, nanotechnology is the future. So you have actually invested into the right kind of degree. Now leave the degree and develop more skills. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes, ma'am, that's what Richard Feynman also said, but it seems it's still taking time.
It will take time, Varun, and I will not be, giving you any false hopes that 10 days more and 15 days more. It's a very, very grim situation, number one. And it is a very unforeseen situation where nobody, if somebody tells you that I promise you just one more one, that person is lying to you. The world is is in a state of frenzy right now. And but you would have also heard this thing, Charles Dickens, survival of the fittest. So I think that is our, all of our situation is that only, survival of the fittest. The person who will be patient will be surviving. That's it. So, but upgrade your skills. My only, because it's a subject that if you lose touch with it, you will forget also. It's a difficult subject. So just keep on upgrading yourself is the best suggestion as of now that I can give you.
Okay, ma'am.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Welcome.
How to avoid the distraction in online classes?
How to avoid the distraction? Okay, so if you remember, when we started off this session also, there was a lot of distraction. So the best we could do was to request them to switch off their mics. And how I manage this distraction in my classes is I make it mandatory that the camera has to be on. It's mandatory in my classes for the students to have their camera switched on, because without camera you are really not sure if you are actually talking to human beings or you are actually just talking to the icons on the screen. So half of the distraction is taken care of if it is a mandate that in my class camera has to be on, and anybody with a camera not switched on may please not come for the class. And trust me, it works in handling distraction. Secondly, I don't know about Google Meet, but Zoom gives you an option wherein you can control the rights of the students, wherein the mic control is with you and the screen control is with you. So it I mean, probably as a last resort, but if nothing is working, having these controls in your hands as an educator, as a trainer, it really helps. But also let me tell you that making them have their camera switched on takes care of 50 to 60% of the distraction related issues for sure. And one more thing which I do is the attendance I always take in the end of the class, because a lot of students attend the class only for the sake of attendance. And and I also tell them that you are not, you are not eligible for attendance just because you are present in my class. I will be looking at your activity level and your concentration level, and your concentration level will actually determine whether I should be giving you attendance or not. It always works. Trust me on that. Just apply this thing with the students and see. I'm asking you to be very strict with the students, but I really can't help it, because as educators we know the kind of things we face, which nobody acknowledges. So and tomorrow if the students flunk, or if they do not do well in their exam, it will be all the teachers fault that in an online environment they did not teach properly. Nobody is going to question the students that they were taking online classes way too lightly. So having cameras on, taking their mic controls, and number 3 is not just giving attendance just because they're present in your class, giving attendance on the condition that your concentration and activity level in the class will determine whether or not you deserve attendance. It really, really helps, and I can vouch for that, everybody.
Okay, so ma'am, we have another question. How can we
Yeah.
engage learners who are not engaged in the online education?
Okay. So, like I said, if their cameras are on and if attendance is a subject to participation, class participation, they will participate. If they do not participate, what I do is I give them a task to do at home, which I do not give to others. Now, the reason is that once or twice, when they get some additional task or an additional assignment which is not given to other people, automatically they start active, participating in the class, because otherwise they know that they will be given a homework which others won't be given. So nobody wants to do an extra work. So this is a very, very good strategy. So for example, say XYZ, you are not active in my class today, so you do this assignment and come to the class tomorrow. Others will not do because they were active. Do it twice, and third time you will find that student as the most active student of your class. Works. Only two things put these guys on track: attendance and assignment. This is the only language they understand. Okay. So do this and see the difference, and tell me the difference also then.
Hello, good evening, Miss.
Good evening. Yeah.
Miss, I have a question. May I ask you?
Please, please, please go on.
Miss,
Yes.
is online education as effective as face-to-face instructions?
Okay, ma'am, this is a very, very, I would say subjective question, because if you ask 100 different teachers, I'm sure you will get 100 different answers. However, for if you want to take my personal opinion, in my personal opinion, for certain subjects, I don't think it is as effective, because there are certain subjects which definitely require physical environment. For example, if I talk about my modules, which comprise of digital marketing and which comprise of analytics, etc., they definitely require a physical environment. However, for certain modules, in MBA that we teach, like consumer behavior, English, literature, the modules which comprise more of reading and writing stuff, I still feel that online education is very pertinent, but definitely not for technical modules. I'm not saying that the situation will be permanently like this. As we get more skilled, as the softwares get more advanced, as the students get more used to this kind of an education system, I'm sure things will improve. But as of now, if you ask me, I do not see that it is 100% match with the traditional methods of teaching. There are certain challenges, which really reduce its efficacy for sure.
Okay, so ma'am, we have another question. How do
Hmm.
you teach online with Google Classrooms when the teacher does not have a computer or access to one?
I know, I know. I seriously, empathize with the situation, because, like, at the beginning of the class, also, I was sharing the data that in India, when we took this survey with teachers, so it was revealed that 2 out of 5 teachers, that is as big as 40% of the teachers, do not have necessary equipments to be able to conduct a seamless online class or to be able to conduct a seamline experience, So yes, that I can only empathize as of now. But if a student does not, I mean, if a teacher does not have a computer or a laptop, I mean, I can understand the challenges, but definitely it's then not possible to operate, because even if you download Google Classrooms on your mobile phone, it gives you limited features only. The kind of advanced features which you get on your computers and laptops, you do not get them on your mobile phone also. So yes, this is a challenge. You probably have to reach out to your institution and ask them for resources. I mean, but it sometimes works, sometimes doesn't. So yeah.
Good evening, ma'am.
Yeah.
Ma'am, I have a question.
Yes.
Ma'am, like we are taking online classes and giving online exams, but I feel they are not effective. So, because when we will complete our graduation and we will face the real world, then how will we cope with that
Yes.
reality, ma'am?
Yes.
And
Yes.
how will we keep us motivated that these online classes and exams are effective?
Yes. So, where are you studying, Ritu?
Ma'am, I'm studying in Delhi
Delhi.
University.
Which institute?
Ma'am, in Lady Irwin College.
What you are saying, my dear, is 110% true. Like one of the points which I also discussed today in my session was the same, that the assessments, the online assessments that we take, are just for a psychological satisfaction, that okay, the assessment is done, kind of a thing, but they are not effective. So if you ask me, you are very right in saying that these assessments are neither satisfactory nor they are effective. How will we cope up? It's just, when you sit in an interview 2 years from now or 3 years from now, though you may tell them that okay, so we are the lockdown batch of the coronavirus, but I am not sure how many recruiters are really going to consider that as a replacement for knowledge, that okay, so you are the lockdown batch, so I am okay even if you kind of do not know the answer to the question. I don't think that's ever going to happen, because at the end of the day they have to earn profits and revenues, so they are not going to give you leverage of being a lockdown batch. So the only thing you can do is that even if you are not satisfied with the kind of assessments the institute is taking, you still study with honesty, do courses, upgrade your skills, like I was telling to Varun, so that you do not feel deficient of knowledge. And today, the world is living on Google. I mean, there is so much content related to every field, so even without spending a single penny, you will be able to learn so much, out there. So if you are just doing a course for getting a degree, then it is fine. But if you are doing a course because you want to learn something and tomorrow you want to clear all the interviews seamlessly, then just do not stop at the examinations which the institute is taking for you. Rather, keep on continuously upgrading yourself. That's the only thing I can tell you, Ritu.
Yes, ma'am, definitely. Thank you, ma'am.
Welcome.
Miss, what technical skills do online students need?
See, for attending the online classes, there is no such skill that you require. There is no specific, computer language, computer knowledge that you require. It's just with practice. But yes, some teacher or somebody should give you an orientation at least once, that this is how, you do Zoom, or this is how you do Google Classroom, etc. Which I am not sure if it is happening everywhere. Other than that, just for the sake of attending online classes, there is no degree, there is no additional computer knowledge which is required. Nothing, just a good Wi-Fi connection and a laptop or a smartphone or a computer system. That's it. No additional skill is required.
I have a question.
Yes, please.
How can we be effective as a teacher? How can we be effective and efficient teacher during our synchronous class,
Which class? Sorry, sir, I didn't get that.
online class?
How
How
can
can
we
be
be? Yeah.
how can be effective and efficient teacher during our online class?
Okay, so how can we teach efficiently during our online class? Okay, so one complaint I'll tell you, which lot of students have been giving, that in an online class, the teacher does not come prepared very well. Now, I don't know how far this is true or not, but in a survey of teachers which was conducted, lot of students had the same complaint to make, that the teachers used to be very, very effective in traditional models of education, but they are not so, in which I'm not sure is true or not. So the first thing, as educators, that we should be doing is that we should also kind of prepare ourselves as well for online education, online class, as we prepare for a traditional class. Number one. Number two, being able to control the class very well, which comprises of making certain rules which are very strict in nature, that is having cameras on. But also, let me tell you one thing, that students will have their cameras on only if the teacher also has the camera on. If the teacher keeps on telling the students have your cameras on, and the teacher does not have the camera on, the student will never have a camera on and will never take the teacher also very seriously. So we have to set an example in front of the students. So this is one thing. So if you have your camera on and you make it mandatory for students to have their cameras on, they will definitely have their cameras on. Then having a control over their mic systems, so that they are not able to mute unmute themselves based upon their requirement, and now I want to talk and now I don't want to talk, kind of a thing. So these are certain things. Like I said, initially also, that making every student participate. Sometimes this may be possible, but sometimes this may not be possible also. So in that case, there are certain ways to make passive students into active students, is by giving them additional assignments, additional works, so that they realize that in the next class, if I'm a passive student instead of an active student, I will have to do something which is very additional. So these are 5-6 things which I follow. And with these things, I'll tell you very honestly that I have actually been able to see a lot of difference, in the sense that the proportion of passive students have decreased and the active students have increased. So these are the few things, because there's only limited that we all can do in online education. There is beyond a
Thank you
point
so
of,
much, ma'am, for
yes.
answering my question. This is watching and participating from the Philippines.
Wow, that's nice, really nice. Thank you very much for your question.
Miss,
Ma'am,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yes, go on. Vandana, you were saying something.
Yeah, someone is saying something. If anybody have any questions, please ask.
yes, Miss, how does online education work on a day-to-day basis?
Sorry, I didn't understand the question. What does it mean?
Miss, how does online education work on a day-to-day basis?
And what does that mean? See, we are having online classes. I mean, at least here in India, we are having these online classes on everyday basis only. So, what is that you're trying to ask? That is learning possible in day-to-day basis?
Yes, Miss.
Yeah, certainly, because online classes, like we say, they have reduced class timing. So, for example, if it's a 90 minutes class in a traditional model, in online education, it gets reduced to 60 minutes. So, anyways, the times are shrunk, in online education. And then it is very important for us to continue them on everyday basis without a break. Because since, like we have been talking about factors like distraction and all, which are very high in case of you know online education as compared to traditional education. So if there are breaks in between, there is a possibility that the efficacy of the class will go on, and students are always more distracted in online classes. So everyday basis, having regular classes, regular timings, regular level of strictness, same seriousness in giving assignments and giving feedbacks, I think is the only way we can make them effective in a everyday basis.
Thank you, Miss.
Yes,
Yeah,
Rishi.
so, ma'am, I have tried teaching in NGOs, and
Mm-hmm.
I realized this problem that there are two kinds of students. One that can be taught using strict methods,
Hmm.
and they work on the basis of repercussions. If there are repercussions and I do not study,
Hmm.
I'll be penalized. And there are other students who really want to learn.
Hmm.
There's a difference in mentality, right?
Hmm.
So once both of the students study, but I realized that the students that did not have the willingness to study but were scared of the penalty did not study in different subjects, were only scared of the penalty and were studying in front of me. Is there a way to create the willingness to study?
There are a lot of ways. In fact, that's the most pious job of a teacher, is to create that urge of learning in a student. But what you are talking to me about, it applies both to to online as well as offline education. Even in offline education, this divide in the mentality of the students, or mentality is not a very good word to use, this divide in the approach of the students will always and always be there. So it is not that it's only in a case of online environment. Now, the thing is, every teacher would probably have a very different style of motivating students, but a good teacher is the one who is able to nurture that learning in a student. So for example, if I take a Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, so he would do it in a different way, I would do it in a different way, and you would do it in a different way. Every teacher will have a customized approach according to her temperament, and there is nothing like a tailor made approach, one approach that will work with every student. So the first thing a teacher has to do is to get down to the level of understanding the students. And once you understand the students, is when you realize that this approach will work with this student. And you are very right in saying that strict approach does not work with all these students, and I'm 100% with you on this.
Thank you, ma'am.
Welcome.
Ma'am, like when online classes started, so we ask questions to teachers. So basically, sometimes what happens, students feel have that fear that we are presenting our question perfectly or not, or the question is right to ask or not.
Mhm.
So how can we make the habit to ask questions to the teacher
See,
or to build
okay.
that confidence?
Okay, so see, you have to understand, this problem is there even in offline education. Everybody is not equally confident in asking questions to a teacher. Some students are very, very prompt, and some are very hesitant. It depends upon the teacher how she creates the environment and the culture of the class wherein every student is comfortable in asking her questions. So there are some teachers, I have seen personally, if you ask a wrong question, they have a tendency to mock that question. So if you mock the question, the student gets insulted, feels insulted, and that student never again is going to ask you a question. So here a lot actually depends upon the teacher rather than the student. If you welcome every question with equal warmness, and if you encourage students to ask questions, I am sure students today or tomorrow, yes, everybody is not equally confident in asking a question, but slowly you can bring the learning curve of a student up. But if a teacher mocks the question, and the question is wrong, so that is where we go wrong as educators. And the ability to bring that thing out in a student, the to get over this hesitation of asking a question, is the most pious job a teacher can do, because the best entrepreneurs in the world, or the best CEOs in the world, are the ones who have always asked a lot of questions in their life.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am, for solving my query.
What are your suggestions or techniques to avoid cheating in online assessments?
Oh, that's a very, very tricky question, and I'm not even sure if even God can do it, because no matter how many strategies you build up, I'm sure students will always be one step ahead of you. So the only thing is that always telling them that I have such an advanced camera which can even see inside your house, etc. That's all faking that you can do. Trust me, no matter how many devices, how many rules, how many laws you make, they will be one step ahead of you. But then this is their innovation and creativity which they are using for all wrong reasons, but still they are using it. If you say that there will be a day wherein you will be able to 100% control cheating in online exam, no, that doesn't even happen in traditional exams. We all know they have answers written on their body parts also, and where else. So if they're determined to cheat, they are determined to cheat. But online systems, because of the challenges, the technical problems that we've been talking about, Wi-Fi connections and lack of resources and gadgets, all these things give them more opportunities to cheat. When the world will become a seamless place with very high Wi-Fi and lot of what should I say, seamless technology, these opportunities would reduce. But today there are immense opportunities for them to cheat, and trust me, they are making the most of it also. We know it also, but there is only to an extent we can control, not 100%. Yeah.
Okay, ma'am. Ma'am, we have one more question. Ma'am, what is been the hardest part about moving your online classes?
Okay, so all of this that we have been discussing, Vandana, all the 11 points that I have touched upon is the hardest part only. But if you talk to me personally, my heart goes out to the point wherein there is no student to student collaboration. They are actually not living a student life, they are living a corporate life because of this online education. Because in classrooms we know how much fun is involved, and though we are finishing syllabus in online education, but we are not able to give them that student life, the student to student collaboration and fights and so many things, which now it's just like robots. They are coming, sitting in front of a system and studying and going back, and no collaboration, no interaction with the peers. So if you ask me, I think my heart goes out to the lack of student to student collaboration in online education, which makes them very monotonous and which makes them very dull.
So, what is the average classroom size?
Oh, well, that depends upon institute to institute. For me, the average class size is still 80 students, which is huge for online education, and that too for, technical, what should I say, that, for a technical paper that I teach, because I teach very, very technical papers. And for that, 80 is actually a very, very, what should I say, very, very, uh, a big class size. In physical environment it is still okay, because there's a lot of ways you can control the class. But in online education, I have to flip through the screen like every now and then to be able to see if their cameras are on, etc. So or they're listening, they're paying attention. So it's very difficult. But this is very subjective to institute. And for my module it is still 80 students, that I have as the average class size. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much, ma'am.
Mm.
As a teacher, what do you think of advantages of using an online class learning?
So is the question that what are the advantages of online education?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, see, as of now, I will just say one thing, that, the only advantage of online education that I have seen is that because of this technology which was available, our children did not have to go for 2 years without having to study. They were still able to study whichever ways. Okay, lower efficacy, okay, lower concentration problems, lower distraction, etc. So I understand all of that, but for me I would say that the only advantage that I have seen in online education is that what if Zoom was not available, or what if Google Classroom was not available, our children would not have been able to study for 2 years at a stretch worldwide. So that is what I would say, that okay, challenges apart, the cheating apart, the lower efficacy apart, at least our children have been able to kind of study at least. So that is my biggest I would say, the biggest advantage that I see in online education, and that's the only advantage as of now.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am. So, thank you so much, guys. And, ma'am, this is very enlightening and knowledgeable webinar. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you for being here. It was really nice interacting with all of you. Thank you very much.